Satellite images have revealed that Russia is engaged in military build-up near its border with NATO member Finland, Swedish SVT Nyheter news site reported. According to the report, Russia is setting up troop camps, building vehicle warehouses and opening and refurbishing airbases just miles from the border with Finland. In addition, Russia's military build-up was observed at Olenya airbase, from where Ukrainian sources say Russia flies strategic bombers used in attacks on Ukraine. Russia has been expanding its military infrastructure near the Finnish border after Finland joined the NATO in April 2023, abandoning its neutrality in the face of Ukraine's invasion by Kremlin. In response to NATO's expansion, Russia started re-establishing Leningrad Military District command near Finland in December 2023. Moreover, since the turn of the year, 150 military tents, with a capacity of housing 2,000 personnel were set up at Kamenka, which is located just 55 kilometers from Finland. In another move to expand its military presence near Finnish border, Russia built 3 large storage warehouses that are believed to be suitable for roughly 50 armored vehicles, in Petrozavodsk, around 160 kilometers. Russia has also reactivated its Severomorsk 2 airfield, with helicopters now parked along the runway. Finland's Deputy Chief of Defense Lieutenant General Vesa Virtane believes that Russia's ultimate goal is to station 5 divisions, an army corps and support units adjacent to the border. It should be noted that in March 2024, Russia threatened to implement a military technical response after Sweden was also granted a NATO membership.
Due to Ukraine's advantage in drones and the achievement of maneuver in modern ground warfare, the Russian Ministry of Defense decided to develop a new doctrine for civilian transport. Ukrainian military correspondent Konstantin Mashovets stated that the Russian military command has developed standards for equipping forward units with motorcycles, all-terrain vehicles and buggies of both Chinese and Russian manufacture. Each battalion must receive up to 30 motorcycles, up to 20 all-terrain vehicles and up to 6 buggies. A platoon receives up to 9 motorcycles, 20 all-terrain vehicles and 6 buggies. Assault companies receive up to 15 motorcycles, up to 20 all-terrain vehicles and up to 3 buggies. According to Mashovets, the 3rd Combined Arms Army was armed with up to 1,125 motorcycles, 975 ATVs and up to 215 buggies. Russian forces currently appear to be using motorcycles in tandem with armored vehicles, although Russian units may begin to conduct motorcycle-only attacks in the future. Mashovets said Russian units currently prefer to use motorcycles in tandem with infantry and armored vehicles. It is possible that Putin's army is currently going through a transition period in order to fully switch to civilian transport during attacks on Ukrainian armed forces positions in the future. At the same time, the enemy can continue to carry out combined attacks using armored vehicles. At the same time, according to Mashovets, Putin's army still relies on volunteers who get them motorcycles. ISW analysts are also confident that in the future, the enemy will completely switch to motorcycles due to the large number of drones on the front line. The Ukrainian military calls the motorbike assaults banzai attacks. One Ukrainian commander, Andriy Otchenash, said earlier this month that the motorcycles are designed for a quick blitzkrieg. They can advance very quickly, get behind the lines. He said, but losses on the Russian side were very high. It indicates that the enemy does not have a large amount of military offensive equipment, but on the other hand, it is an adaptation to the conditions of war, said the Ukrainian Center for Strategic Communication. Russian forces have used motorbikes and quads in several areas of the front lines in an effort to evade Ukrainian drones for more than a year. But the Institute for the Study of War in Washington says the latest Russian video indicates that the Russian military is likely developing a tactical doctrine for systematic offensive motorcycle usage and may be preparing to issue an increased number of motorcycles. The Russian military is planning to increase the use of small squads on motorcycles and quad bikes on the front lines in Ukraine as it plans fresh offensives, according to the Ukrainian military and the analysts of the conflict. Having lost more than 1,000 tanks, many of them shot down by Russian drones, Ukraine has recognized that heavily armed fighting vehicles must adopt a different strategy if they are to survive on a battlefield filled with tiny drones. As Forbes analyst David Axe notes, tank crews must now operate with extreme caution, spending most of their time hiding in barns, garages or dugouts, and only emerging occasionally to fire a few rounds before retreating to cover. By acting more like discreet artillery and less like the brazen, close combat assault vehicles they once were, tanks are losing some of their relevance. Embracing this new truth, the Ukrainian army is reorganizing its tank units. He emphasizes, the analyst estimates that Ukraine's 4 active tank brigades, each with up to 100 tanks, will likely be disbanded. Some of the hundreds of tanks freed up by this reform, including dozens of Leopard 1A5 and Leopard 2A4 tanks, that Ukraine is receiving from its allies, will be transferred to new 30-tank battalions belonging to infantry and mechanized brigades, as well as to new multi-brigade corps that will organize the Ukrainian ground forces. Ukrainian tanks are being dispersed on the battlefield and also dispersed within the Ukrainian armed forces structure, playing a supporting rather than leading role in a war increasingly shaped by drones. The end result should be a somewhat smaller overall tank corps with fewer vehicles and crews, but one that is better suited to the type of war Ukraine is fighting. At the same time, Axe points to another possible benefit of this strategy. In his opinion, it will help solve one of the most vexing problems of the Ukrainian armed forces, an acute shortage of infantry on the front lines. By sending fewer recruits to tank school, military planners could send more to infantry school, he notes. David Axe also wrote earlier that the Ukrainian armed forces are increasingly hiding armoured vehicles underground in dugouts to protect them from drones. As the media reported, German Leopard 2 tanks were not adapted to the war in Ukraine and encountered significant problems. As a result, the Ukrainian military cannot use them to their full capacity. In particular, the Leopard 2 is extremely vulnerable to drone strikes, while its complex design makes it difficult to repair on the battlefield, meaning damaged Leopards must be sent to specialist repair crews in western Ukraine or even to Poland for repairs and maintenance.